Hi everyone, and welcome back. I am Abigail Rudner from Rudner Revolution, and this is the fourth and final part of the first in a series of basic chops lessons in Photoshop. We're going to wrap up this design by making a few more tweaks, getting you familiar with a couple of more great techniques in Photoshop, and exporting this file for the web. You'll also learn how to add a drop shadow, flip artwork, and how to adjust the color to make it just right. So here we go. Our original image had more of an overall glow to it, and I want to see if I can get some of that back. So I'm going to come over here to the Layers panel and play around with the stacking order. And as I do this, I have my glowing stars on lighten, and since they're the bottom layer, they are not being affected by the layer above it, which is normal. And I'm going to set this layer to pin light. Now with pin light set, I'm beginning to get a much more saturated look. What I want to do is play around a little bit more with the positioning of some of the items that I have in place. I'm going to bring the blue star layer down and in fact move my layers panel back over. So what I think I'm going to do is actually recreate that gradient by selecting everything on this layer, I'm going to select all under the select menu and delete and come back to my gradient tool. And in fact scale this a bit more. There we go. Now I'm getting a lot more of this bright red color introduced into my artwork, which is giving it the kind of punch that I want. And I'll deselect. Under Select, choose Deselect. For my little people here, I want to name that layer Little Family. And I want to show you how to flip them over because I want the smallest person on the left. I'm going to choose Edit Transform again with that layer selected and choose Flip Horizontal. Now I know they're hard to see. We need to introduce some more bright color underneath these. So I'm going to click the nebulae layer and come down to the bottom of the layers panel and add a new layer, and there is our new layer. I'm going to select a new foreground color. I'm going to choose pink and increase the size of my brush. Using this brush tool, come over to the brushes palette and increase the size of my brush and make sure the hardness is on 0, which will give me a nice soft brush, exactly what I'm looking for. Also make sure you check your opacity. Mine is at 28 and I think I want to bring that up to 100. And as I paint, you can see I'm getting this nice kind of pinky glow at the bottom of the image. However, it's a solid color and I want it to blend in better to the background. So I'm going to choose the lighten layer mode, and I'm getting some of that blending. You can also experiment with lowering the opacity of that layer. I want to put some drop shadow on the type so that it stands out and people can read it. To do that, first I'll switch back to the Move tool and find the text layer. Here's a neat trick. If you double-click your text layer with the Move tool, it actually will select your text. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could change the color of the text. Here, I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to flip the color to a bright yellow color, just so you can see what happens here. When I click on another layer, I can see my yellow cancel out of here. Make sure that I have the correct layer selected. Let's try that again. And double-click, and here we go. Drop shadow. That's more of what we're talking about. You can see the type is popping out, standing out really nicely on the blue background. We'll create a spread here, softening up the size and spread of the gradient. Rather the drop shadow that's behind the text. That's looking nice, and click OK. I think I will select the author's name and change it to a lighter color of yellow. And again, if I click away on another layer, that looks pretty good. And back to the text layer again. Select the instead of stars type and make that white and see what that looks like. All right, folks, I think we're done with our CHOPS 1 lesson, in which you learned a variety of Photoshop techniques, from layering to working with color, working with layer blend modes, type, transformations. I showed you a bit about how to get free images from the web from the Creative Commons website, how to use scale and rotate, and how to add an effect to your layer. I hope that you have enjoyed this little tutorial, and I would love to hear your comments. So please feel free to chime in down at the bottom of this page, or email me at abigail@rudnerevolution.com. Thanks so much for joining. See you soon.